So the second Patreon poll topic. And by the way, Ian, how do you access the CU Podcast Patreon? I think you got it. I'm confident.
Go to patreon.com/CU Podcast.
My clockwork.
Yep. Got it.
So the three topics for the last one were, let me go to it real quick, what the three topics were. One got flushed away. One did awfully after rising up and it was hanging in there and it got flushed away. So we had, what was the topics here? Oh, man, I got to log in to see it. Anyway, the winning one, Ian, was by a landslide. What should you do, the general you, about retro game stores selling counterfeit games?
So I don't know that there's a whole lot you can do. This is what I would suggest doing. You see one that's counterfeit and it's not labeled. Even if it's labeled, I still think that that's very problematic. But first thing you do is point it out. I mean, counterfeits are meant to be passed off as legit. Mm-hmm. People who work in game stores, especially independent game stores, are generally trained to be able to tell the difference. But, you know, you can't assume just because you spot a counterfeit in a store that they're necessarily trying to get one over on you.
Sure, but so, there are also stores that clearly...
I'm getting there. So first thing you do if you've seen one in a store that you haven't been in before, or if you're not certain, is, you know, probably kindly point out and be like, hey, I don't think that's legitimate, or I want to take a look at that. Do you mind if I check the board, or do you mind if I take a look at it and see? And if you have a concern, maybe just mention it.
And maybe educate them if they don't know.
A lot of people have asked us to open up expensive games before. Earthbounds, you know, other games. We just sold like a stunt racer, and you know, we've had some expensive N64 titles in, and you know, people ask us to open those games. We always open them. We open them when they come in. We have no problem doing that. So you know, these are things that you should probably expect your local store to be okay with. You know, especially if you're buying something expensive or rare, or that is, you know, prone, or it could be. That could likely be counterfeited. If you see it regularly, you fucking... I mean, if this is something that they are known to do, and they are trying to pass them off, you don't fucking go. I don't know. It's so hard. I mean, it's disgusting. You put that place on blast, but legally... You look around today and you look at places like eBay and shit, and it's like, well, you can't get these places shut down for selling them. You know, could you try to make a call to a law enforcement agency? I guess, but no one's going to do anything. No one fucking cares.
It has to be a high price item for them to even care.
They're not going to give a shit. So basically you just spread the information. You want to make sure that these people are absolutely in the know that they are doing it, because you don't want to destroy a business, but you have to, you know, you want to make sure that that's known. I don't know of a lot of stores, despite that a lot of people have this fear.
I get emails every now and then and pictures saying that my store's selling them. I do. Every now and then.
Very few people have brought that up to me. I've seen places where people are knowingly selling reproduction cards and saying that they're selling reproduction cards.
That's the same thing, though. They're counterfeits.
Yes. That's different than trying to pass it off as a legit copy to someone, which is my first topic, which is my first part. That's something that I don't see. I don't know that I've seen a store legitimately try to pass a reproduction off as a legit article.
I'm sure we'll get people in the comments saying my store's done it. I'm sure.
And
we'll see
that's awful, and I wish there was more you could do for it. As far as people who are selling reproductions, you simply turn around and you don't give them the business. And people who are doing that, those are people you put on blast. Those are the people who are knowingly selling reproductions. I'd say just don't give them your business and make sure people know that they are doing so. Because that's verifiable. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's why
it's on the label. It says Repro, which is, there's, again, it's a counterfeit.
That's why, but I'm separating the two for a reason. If someone accidentally is selling a Repro and you assume they're doing it to get one over on you, they may not be, and you could ruin their business. I don't know of any store that has been found out for trying to purposely screw people over. Now, if a store is actually selling repros and they say, because I've seen this plenty of fucking times. Authentic board reproduction label, blah blah blah. That's just a store you don't go support, and then you spread that around.
We're talking about different degrees of lying. I guess at that point.
I'm talking about a person who didn't know there was one versus people who are actively trying to sell them. They're telling you that they're selling them, and they're still selling them.
I don't think either scenario is right, especially if you point out to someone that this is most likely a counterfeit.
Yes, and then they take it off the shelf.
But if they don't, and they still have it or continue to do it,
Pat, you completely missed what I said. I'm talking about the person. If you find someone who has one, and you know what it is, and it's counterfeit, and you just put them on blast without telling anyone about it, and assume that they're just selling counterfeits.
I don't think anyone would do that. I think you would sell. I think most people. The messages I get from people is that I've told the seller either they took it away.
Lots of people are knee jerk,
or some they don't care and leave it out.
Well, then you put them on blast. I'm talking about people who may go into a store and just assume.
Oh, I don't think most people. I think most people, at least I've communicated with, are reasonable, and they may think that not everyone knows the same thing because a lot of retro game sellers don't have knowledge of a lot of the collectors that come in and be like, okay, this is this and this is that. It's just so much knowledge between different consoles and game libraries, obviously. But yeah, I mean they're both bad situations. But yeah, I will say this though. You could get in a situation where you can have stores play dumb and be like, well, we didn't know it was, but then again, you're guessing their state of mind, and you can't. It's hard to do that. It's hard to guess what their state of mind is, taking in a repro and selling it for the full price, knowing that it's a counterfeit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you see this become a repeat problem,
yes,
where you hear of
absolutely.
other people, then that's a different thing.
If you see like 3 or 4 times where there's like a Flintstones dinosaur peak or a little Samsung, you're like, that looks like shit, and that's counterfeit.
If you constantly keep catching bootleg Pokemon in some stores thing, and you've mentioned it to them before, well, then they're obviously trying to pass off $15 Pokemon cartridges or $5 Pokemon cartridges for 25 or 30.
Sure,
that's different.
Well, that's not as egregious as the hundreds of dollars of games, and plus that's a lot easier to tell just on the outset how awful those little Samsung fucking labels are.
But if people are trying to pass off counterfeits, it's more often you're going to find it in stuff like that.
In this day and age, I don't know. This day and age, with the amount of Alibaba Express carts out there now, it's funny that someone. By the way, this was a landslide. This was 58%. We've never had 59%. We've never had a vote that high, I think, for the topic. 22% retro game loot crates, can they work? And then 19% what constitutes a complete retro video game. We'll bring those both out. Those are both viable topics. But a comment from Ben said, the winning question will piss Ian off. Love it. And then Brad responded, my thoughts exactly, Ben. Why would you get pissed at this topic?
I wouldn't. It's something that we actively fight against.
I thought it meant like just the gall of maybe game store owners doing it would piss.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it definitely does. Whenever someone sends me a tweet about that, it's enraging. Like there was one that someone sent me, and it was I think it was Flintstones Dinosaur Peak, and it had a label next to it. And it was in like a case on a stand. And it said Flintstones Dinosaur Peak, grade A-.
They graded it on an A-.
And it said A-, and they had it up there for like $689 or something like that, or $750 or something. It was ridiculous. It was maybe even higher. And it was and the description was authentic case. It was cartridge condition, like it was like pristine, board is authentic, in amazing shape, label is perfect but is a reproduction.
So the game wasn't counterfeit, the label was counterfeit.
Yeah,
so that's another territory. Part of it's authentic.
It's just, how do you call it an A play?
Well, no.
What kills me is because we've had this conversation on comics before.
This is an offshoot conversation.
Well, not really. It's still
no, but that's not technically a counterfeit game.
Okay.
It's a reproduction art on a real game. It's another conversation. That could be another.
This topic. Still falls into the shit that people send me from stores that drives me nuts.
Yeah, if you want to, I always said it should be treated like a poor condition comic. That's how I always say. A poor condition comic with a repro, it's worth like 1% of the actual price.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. You can get an expensive, amazing Fantasy 15 first appearance of Spider-Man That's usually worth, let's say the comic's usually worth 15 grand. You throw a repro cover on it, it's now worth $100, $150. And that's how it works. Because it reduces the quality of it to nothing at that point. You're actually making it worse by putting on a fake versus having no cover. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You might as well scratch off that fucking fake label and it would have been better off.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it. And that's usually looked at, I think, in collectibles markets. That's how they look at it. That'll be the next time at CU Podcast Patreon, patreon.com/CU Podcast. I almost screwed up.
I mean, at this point, some of those fakes they just don't feel right. The actual counterfeits. I wonder how they even get into stores.
People trade them in, and the sellers don't know or care.
I mean, at this point, what I'm saying is, I feel like that the answer must be they don't care.
If only someone put out new licensed old video games. Only someone did that.